that's going.
All right. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for allowing me to come in today.
Yep. So I just kind of want to start off by learning a little bit about you, why you came in, how you're feeling, things like that.
Well, I've started to notice that I'm doing certain things in my life because of thoughts that I'm having. Like, and my parents have noticed it too, and some of my teachers and friends. Like, I'll leave school to go make sure like the stove is turned off, or make sure the door is locked, or make sure the door is closed and no one can fall down the stairs. And I just always have this feeling that somebody at home, one of my dogs or the family, someone's gonna get hurt because I left something open or I left something on. Sometimes I feel like I forgot to turn my parents' car off when they let me drive it, and just things like that.
That sounds like a really frustrating onset of symptoms.
Yeah, it's kind of interfered with making it to school on time, making it through the whole day at school without worrying. I've showed up late, I've left early. I quit the baseball team because it just, being at school for 6 hours and then at baseball for 3 hours, that's 9 hours. And in those 9 hours, if I left something, like if I left the stove on for 9 hours, I'll get home to a burnt down house. So I just wanted to have more time to make sure everything was in order.
Yeah. Wow, that's really difficult. How long would you say you've been feeling like this?
Well, I just quit the baseball team last month. But I would say probably around the beginning of this school year. I'm a senior now, and really just around the beginning of this school year. My freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I had really good grades. I was at school on time, there the whole day, every day, and for some reason this year it just seems like I can't do it because of these feelings and thoughts, I guess.
So it seems like you've been having them, like you said, from the beginning of the year. How often would you say that you're having like these thoughts and feelings about needing to check things?
Pretty much every day.
Every day, okay.
Every day. It's more of a question of how often does it happen per day, but it's definitely every day. I always think about it, sometimes I wake up in the morning and then my first thought is, did I leave the stove on last night? Or did I leave the doors unlocked overnight? Or then I'll get like halfway through the school day and same thing, did I leave the doors locked when I left, or did I leave them open? If my mom lets me drive her car to school, I'll think, it'll be third period, I'll be like, did I turn the car off or did I leave it on? Did I leave it running? And did somebody steal it? Or did I even put it in park, or did it just roll out of the parking lot?
Like wow, all right.
Yeah,
that'd be bad.
Yeah, it would be,
Yeah.
and it's what I think about all the time. So, yeah, it's more of a question of how often per day, rather than does it happen every day.
So what I'm hearing from you is that in the past couple of months, like at the beginning of the school year, you came in having really good grades from the year before. What, like good grades are A's and B's type of thing?
No, for me, good grades were A's.
All A's.
All
okay.
A's, yeah. B's were no good for me.
Okay.
Even A minuses were kind of rare.
Okay.
I mean, my GPA was 3.8 before my senior year. So I really had, I was really on top of my schoolwork, and I like to keep it that way. But it's just I can't do it this year with what's going on.
Okay. So you came in with those kinds of grades, but because you wake up and it sounds like every day and pretty often during the day you're having these thoughts about, did I shut off the stove? Did I lock the door? Are the windows locked? Did I shut off the car? Things like that. And within your head, you're kind of worrying about those things instead of focusing on schoolwork or on baseball or things like that. Yeah,
and it's really, I mean, like I said, I had all A's. I had 3.8 GPA, and this year I'm failing 3 classes. And the principal said if I don't pick up my grades, then I'm gonna have to stay back senior year.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
If you told me freshman year that I would have to stay back senior year, I would have just laughed at you.
Right. Yeah.
Because my grades were so good, but now with but at the same time, if you told me freshman year that I was gonna have to check the stove 17 times a day, I would have probably laughed at you again.
Yeah.
But here we are with both of the two things happening. So
when you say you check it 17 times, is that like you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, or is it you're going back to check? How does that work for you?
It depends. I mean, sometimes I get to the stove and I see that it's off, and that's enough. But sometimes I see that it's off and I'm like, is it really off? And I have to kind of turn it on and then turn it back off. It depends. Sometimes I even open it to make sure it's not hot inside, like, because maybe if the button says off but it's actually on, you never know. So it depends on the day. Like every time I approach the stove, I guess you could say it's a little bit different. The same but different.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like it's really disrupting your life. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've kind of talked about how this checking has like been inside your head and how it's been affecting your environment. But do you have like, does it change how you feel physically? Are there any symptoms there?
Yeah, sometimes I'll be in class and, you know, I said I had to leave at lunch sometimes.
Right.
Like sometimes I can't eat. I won't be able to eat my food because I'm worrying and stressing about what's going on at home. I've had times where I felt physically ill, like I was gonna throw up if I didn't, you know, do whatever I was thinking about at the time. Sometimes I feel tired and anxious, and yeah, I can definitely physically feel the, you know, how my thoughts have an impact on how I feel physically, for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. We can definitely work on things to help you cope with that a little bit better, if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, definitely.
I just have a couple more questions before we move on to more of like the therapy part, just so I can get to know you more.
Okay.
You said that your parents recommended that you come in, but I see here that you already have a diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder, which in what you're describing kind of, you know, that's what I would have said too. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you know about your diagnosis and why your parents sent you to me and things like that?
I don't really know much about my diagnosis. I don't really even know what obsessive compulsive disorder really is. I mean, I get that I have a problem. My parents get that I have a problem, but I just felt like the last person I saw who gave me that diagnosis, I just felt like that they didn't really care very much and that they were just kind of there to collect a paycheck. So I wanted to go somewhere where maybe the person would care a little bit more. And my parents kind of respected that, and so I mean, I came here willingly, but they were very happy to send me here.
Good. Well, I'm glad that, you know, being within your school district and your school system and things like that, that we can hopefully do a lot that will keep you, that will, you know, reduce your symptoms and make you feel a little bit calmer and more at ease and help you graduate, because, you know, you have been having such a good GPA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to work together and help you with that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd like to get my grades back up for sure.
Are there any questions you have for me before we kind of move forward into the next part of the session?
I don't think I have any questions. Maybe if you just want to tell me what obsessive compulsive disorder is.
Yeah, sure, of course. So obsessive compulsive disorder, which is OCD, is a diagnosis that just kind of means that you have these obsessions, so the thoughts within your head, you know, did I turn off the stove, whatever, that are really repeating on a cycle and don't necessarily make a lot of sense. You know, like if you know you turned off the stove or if you know that you locked the door, but they're just those repeating thoughts anyway. And then the compulsions are your actions in trying to check, you know, the door or the light or the car or anything like that. So it's that combination of like kind of faulty thinking that something's wrong and the compulsion to act because you think that you're going to accidentally hurt someone. Those two kind of put together, I know are kind of making it difficult to focus and things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've never had it explained to me before, so that's cool.
All right, well, I'm glad that I can help.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I kind of wanted to approach the rest of the session in what is a cognitive behavioral therapy manner. And since you're 18 years old, I feel like we can kind of have a conversation about what that is and see if that's something that will work for you.
Okay.
So CBT is just, I would say the main tenet of it is understanding like that your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors are all interconnected. One affects the other, and the third affects the second, and you know it's all they all interplay. It's a very goal-oriented, so maybe before the end of the session we can kind of set goals for what you would like out of the session.
Okay.
And it also really like I like to kind of assign, I don't like to call it homework, but pretty much homework, just to hold you accountable for things that are happening outside the session, since we'll only be able to meet a couple times a week maybe, and kind of fill those gaps in between and help you teach yourself and learn outside of the therapy session.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so since this is your first time, I thought maybe we could talk through goals together. One of my goals for you was understanding your diagnosis, which I think we kind of already went through, and understanding a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, I think I definitely have a better understanding of my diet. Like I said before, it kind of seemed like she just kind of rushed me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only with her for like 30 minutes, And for the way I look at it is, how can you really get to know me in 30 minutes? Like
Right.
we're already talking about like further sessions and stuff like that, and meeting for longer. And she just talked to me for 30 seconds, and that was it. So
Gotcha.
that was a little bit weird. So yeah, I definitely think I have a better understanding. If that's the first goal, I think we're headed in the right direction.
Awesome, glad to hear it then. And then in terms of like a CBT approach to your OCD, I would kind of see it as like, how you've been saying you have the thoughts about, we'll go with not turning off the stove. So you think about that, you think about it in like a cyclical pattern and can't really escape it. And then you said that you were feeling like uneasy, really nervous about it, things like that. And your behavior is checking the stove, things like that. So with that approach, we kind of try to look at all three of those and see how they're connected, and think of ways that we might be able to reduce those faulty thoughts and beliefs and those like the actions that you feel like you need to do.
Okay, so that would be the second goal?
Yeah, if that works for you, is like
Yeah.
kind of helping you like understand that those are connected and things like that. And I think that kind of ties in with the homework that I'd like to assign you for tonight.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the
Yeah,
second goal. So would it be not necessarily to eliminate the thoughts, but to kind of understand them better?
Yeah, like, at this point, obviously down the road, we don't want you to have to continuously think about these things, but as our first session, I just think it's best to understand those thoughts and feelings and behaviors and kind of where they're coming from and how they're interacting. So of course, I think a goal should be to, eliminate them and help you carry on with school and sports and things like that. But for right now, I think the best understanding would be, like for your best understanding, it would just kind of being able to see how those things play out in your life and how they're connected.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I wish I could offer you a one-step fix, but I think this
I
might be a
know.
good way to start
Yeah.
if you're up for it.
I've tried one-step fixes and they don't work.
Right.
So.
So you're interested in taking a look at homework then?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
And this will, I think, give you a better understanding as well of what we're looking to do.
All right.
So this is called the 3-column technique. As you can see, there are 3 columns, so named well. Up at the top, not everyone includes it, but I think it's kind of helpful for when you come back, and we will review it pretty much at the start of the next session. I think it's best to understand the situation. So if we put that at the top, that'll be easier for you to remember next week. So the situation, we're just looking at who, what, where, when, what was going on around you, who was there when the situation took place. Does that sound like an easy enough start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, like I said down here, there are 3 columns, one with the label of feelings, 1 thoughts, and 1 behavior. So what I would be looking for you to do would be, within situations where you're having, kind of experiencing your OCD symptoms, would kind of be to pause, either during or whatever, and fill this out, kind of saying, what do you feel? Like in that moment, how are you feeling? What do you feel? If you want to kind of create your own scale on like 1, I feel really calm and good and in control of my thoughts or feelings, or like 10, I feel really out of control of my feelings. I don't feel good. I feel uncomfortable, anything like that.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions on it? Or are we good?
I don't think I have any questions now.
Okay. The second column is thoughts. So just what thoughts are going on in your mind. And in doing it, you can kind of look at and maybe see how your feelings and thoughts are related. So if you're feeling uneasy, is that because you're thinking about the stove or the lights or the car? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because with these 2 tied together, I'm sure that when you start looking across, you'll see there's like a common thread that if you're feeling uncomfortable, it's because you're thinking about, the actions that you might have done to cause harm to someone.
Okay.
Do you see how that helps link them?
Yeah, I can kind of see how the 2 would go together.
Okay, great. And then the third is behavior. So it's, what did you do in that situation? What behavior, like how did you act it out? Did you act on your compulsion and go check the stove? Did you do something else? Anything like that. And again, it'll kind of show you how all three of these might go together.
Okay. So it's really how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
which influences how you think,
Mhm.
which would influence how you behave.
Right. And
Okay.
all of them are connected, you know, behaviors connected all the way back to feelings and things like that.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to go, you know, in this straight linear manner. They're all kind of messily
Mm.
interconnected.
Okay. All right.
Yeah?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would it be helpful before you leave if we kind of did a practice round?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Alright.
sure.
Do you want to write or do you want me to write it out so you can think?
I can write.
Right? Okay. So take it away.
So just write how I'm feeling right now, or just at a certain situation.
Yeah, I think maybe in the last week or so, pull a situation out of your mind where, you know, you were feeling uneasy and maybe write that out.
And you were saying
practice.
to use a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, if that works for you, write it.
What
use
if
a
I just
scale or
what if I use words to describe?
yeah, that's totally. This is your stuff. So whatever helps you understand things better.
The thought stove.
All right, what do we got here? So, what was the general situation? When did you start?
I was thinking of
These things.
2 days ago when I left school at during lunch. I had bought my lunch,
Mhm.
couldn't eat, and I went home to make sure the stove was turned off. So that
Okay.
was the situation I chose.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about the feelings that you were having?
Yeah, so I remember I got my lunch, and I had already felt a little bit of anxiety before I got to lunch, and I wasn't really sure why. But then I got my lunch and I tried to eat and I couldn't, and I started feeling uncomfortable. I started feeling scared at one point,
Okay.
and then I started to think why. And then the first thing that popped in my head was the stove, in that it was running, or maybe I left it open and the dog climbed in and then it closed itself. I don't really know what. Just the stove was really what I was thinking about.
All right. So awesome thoughts. Good.
Yep, and so then I decided to go home and check the stove. I opened it 4 times to make sure the dog wasn't in it.
Mhm.
I turned it on, turned it off. I don't even know how many times, but that was the result of what I was feeling and thinking, I guess.
Mhm. So that was the behavior that you acted
Yeah.
on. Awesome. Okay. I think this is a really great place to start. Does this kind of clear up what I'm looking for in terms of the homework?
Yeah, I definitely think it makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
Also to recognize what's going on.
Right. And so then next week, if you fill this out a couple times a day when you're feeling especially anxious or uncomfortable, or even if you're not, and that's for a specific reason, that's important to note too. And we can do the same thing. Come back, we can run through the situation, feeling, thoughts, behaviors, and then I think from there it would be a good way, maybe next week we can start talking about education on how to kind of transform your feelings and thoughts and behaviors and things like that. So right now we can just log how it's going to get a better sense of what's going on. But since CBT is really founded in education and being goal oriented and things like that, I think it's a good way to move forward.
Okay.
Do you have any last questions before you leave?
So this can be used for positive situations too?
Yeah, I think a lot of people use it when they're feeling uncomfortable or anything, but I think if you're feeling really good about something, then that's also important to note.
So maybe if I get if I get 100 on a test, I could write all of this, the feeling.
Right, because then you'll probably notice that you're not thinking about the stove, and that's a really great way to notice how your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interchangeable. Because if you're feeling good and thinking good things, your behavior will be positive as well.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, it's good to know that it's not going to be all negative.
No, that's not with me. So I'll see you next weekend.
Yeah,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Great, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.